Hey, fellow project managers, how you doing today? It's your friend Phil here, project management trainer and coach. I thought I would talk to you today about passing the planning process group. And to set the ball rolling, I would like to call your attention to this very important book that I have got on my phone. You can see it's the PMBOK Guide 5th edition on my phone. Now, a lot of people say the PMBOK Guide is heavy and it's ridiculous to have to read it, but I'd say take it in bite-sized chunks on your smartphone and just go through it, every time you can, every time you get the opportunity to. There are a few pages that you cannot compromise in this book, and I'm going to call out a particular page today as it relates very heavily to passing the planning process group. And I'm going to call out page 78. That's right, page 78. So if you haven't taken a look at page 78, I would like you to do that. Follow me as I go there. And it's actually this table. You might recognize that table. And that is the difference between the project management plan and project documents. That one. That's actually what I'm calling out. Now, my PMBOK guide has vanished. I'm going to have to open it again and log in using my password and all that. So while I do that, let me ask you a few questions. When it comes to project scope management, have you guys ever developed a WBS, a work breakdown structure? Because if you haven't developed a work breakdown structure, I would like to encourage you to go through the motions of developing a work breakdown structure on your own. Get to be familiar with what exactly it entails. If you have not developed a project scope statement on your own, get familiar with that as well. And going back to our page 78, I would like to call your attention to the project documents on the right-hand side. These are quite important. In fact, you could have roughly 30 or 40 questions that revolve around these. So everything from activity attributes all the way down to work performance reports, I would like you guys to know the definitions, know what they are. If you haven't developed one or worked on one before, it might be a good thing to do before your exam, just to get into the mindset of what exactly these things are. Now, on the other side of the table, we have the project management plan components. See? All of these components, I would recommend going through these with a fine-tooth comb, because planning is huge. There's so many things that you could encounter in planning, from change management and configuration management all the way down to stakeholder management. So if these topics are not familiar to you, you may need to put yourself into a pragmatic situation of actually developing, some of these, or asking yourself, what makes this a configuration management plan? What makes it a change management plan? What makes it a scope management plan, and so on? Planning could be a tough area on the exam, especially for people that do not have the pragmatic experience of developing a scope statement, a WBS, a schedule, baseline, quality management plan. Very few people actually have this experience. So to effectively answer the question, you need to put yourself into a real life situation, a pragmatic situation that revolves around these plans. And you have to know the difference between all of these plans and these baselines. Okay. So going through the knowledge areas to round this off, scope management, very important area. You need to know the difference between what you've got in the charter and what you've got in any of those components that come from scope. So your scope baseline, which consists of your WBS dictionary, and your project scope statement. Knowing the differences between those is quite important. When it comes to scheduling, knowing the difference between a schedule versus a schedule baseline versus a schedule management plan. They're all different things. When it comes to cost management, knowing the difference between your cost management plan and your cost baseline, and also knowing what it means to estimate costs. What's the difference between estimating costs and generating activity cost estimates versus actually determining a budget? When it comes to quality, folks, the numerous tools of quality, the 7 basic quality tools, and all of those associated tools of quality, very important. When it comes to HR, know the difference between acquiring, developing, and managing the team. Put yourself into some real world pragmatic situations of conflict management, conflict resolution. Look for questions that can test you on the 5 stages of team development, forming, norming, storming, and all that. When it comes to communications, know what exactly is in the communications management plan. It's quite a big plan, it's huge. If I were you, I would endeavor to know what exactly is in the communications management plan, know what a RACI chart is, know what a RAM is, and understand where to use R, A, C, and I. You probably already know that A should only be used once. In fact, try to use those letters as few times as possible, but definitely you only want to use one A in your RACI chart because only one person should be accountable for a particular task. So for each line in your RACI, you only want one A. Going over to risk management, risk is big. In fact, if you don't have real world experience in risk management, this could be tough. For your exam, I would highly recommend putting yourself into a real world situation of developing a risk register. If you haven't developed a risk register, work on a risk register. Go through the motions. It would help you. So you want to first of all identify the risk. You want to identify the cause. You want to identify the effect. Risk, cause, effect is the pattern that PMI uses in their standards. You can't identify the effect without identifying the risk. And you want to identify the cause so that you can attack the root cause and get rid of many risks at once. Also on risk, as you are identifying risks, you want to bear in mind that this is done with the power of the team using probability and impact matrix. You also want to understand that the next process, performing qualitative risk analysis, has to be done with risk categorization in mind. You also need to remember the probability and impact matrix is used specifically in this process, not in perform quantitative risk analysis, as some people mix these up. And then when you get to quantitative risk analysis, know what exactly it is, know your expected monetary value, and so on. And then when it comes to planning risk responses, of course, the difference between the 4 strategies for positive risks, or 4 strategies for negative risks or threats, 4 strategies for positive risks or opportunities, also very important, being able to distinguish those. Okay, I know I've spent quite a bit of time on risk. Risk could be big on the exam. And then going into procurement, knowing your contract types, knowing when to choose fixed price, cost reimbursable, time and materials, all that stuff. Very important. And stakeholder management, from identifying stakeholders, using your power influence grid, influence impact grid, understanding what the salience model is. These are all very important things. Don't just whiz through planning, folks. Try and decompose it into real world pragmatic events. So all of those areas, all the way from integration, where everything comes together, all the way down to stakeholder, you could get anything on your exam from plan, okay? So to ace planning, the summary is you have to be pragmatic about it. You have to take the bull by the horns, and if you haven't seen these documents or you haven't seen these plans, you need to do that. Get the documents, get the plans, and try to find examples of these. Now, people say, Phil, where am I going to find examples? Well, if you're a member of the PMI, you do have access to templates that revolve around all of these project management plan components and project documents that I'm showing you on page 78, all right? 78 in the PMBOK guide. If you do not have access to those, maybe you're not a member of the PMI, you can go to this link I'm going to give you right now. It's tiny.cc/sigmapmo. That's tiny.cc/sigmapmo. And if you go there, you can visit the Center for Disease Control and Prevention's website. They've got some really good examples of project management plans and different documents that I would recommend that you look at. Okay. Now, beyond that, of course, to do well in planning, you need to kick the tires and you need to really make sure that you're ready for the exam. So I would recommend, again, going to pmsucceed.com, pmsucceed.com. And when you get there, just take a look at the different materials. If you have not signed up for a PMP training course, you can take our 7-day or 30-day or 60-day or 90-day course. So just go there, take a look. Actually, it's 30 days, 90 days, and 6 months. So take a look at what you can find there. There's all sorts of helpful study aids and materials. But if you have any questions about the exam or anything I could clarify for you, please drop a line right there. Well, thank you very much for watching the video. I wish you all the best in your prep and have a great week. Bye for now.